Okay, it's 1 minute past the hour. We've got a full agenda today, so we'll get started just as the last of you are joining us today. So welcome, thank you for joining. I know some of you were staying late and joining early today. Welcome to the intermediate session of the SpecSizer education series. So what I will say before we start is that last week we did our beginners series. So that was targeted at people who have never used SpecSizer before or in the beginning stages of using SpecSizer. So that is going to be on demand later this week. So just stay tuned, look on YouTube for that session. If you missed it, it will be available to catch up on. So let's get started with the educational series for the intermediate. If we go to the next slide, please, Alex. So just to introduce myself, I am Amber Cawthorne. I am the marketing supervisor for the Americas within Caterpillar Electric Power. I used to be the product owner of SpecSizer, so I'm super passionate about this tool and about how great this tool is for our customers. This is our standard opening slide, but important to go through nonetheless. So be safe, make sure you're joining from a safe environment, be aware of any potential hazards, be present. This is a long, engaging session that we've tailor-made for you. So please be present and engage in the polls and the questions that we have throughout. Win the right way, act on the values that, Caterpillar has and yourselves have, and be cyber safe. So make sure that you're aware of potential cyber threats and cybercrime as it's on the rise. So if we go to the next slide, please. So as I've said, I've already pitched last week's. You can catch up on demand for that later this week on YouTube. That's the beginner session. I'll talk more about this session in the next slide, but just a plug for the advanced session. So you can attend all of these training sessions. There's no cap on how many that you can attend. So if you want to do all three, or if you want to just do one, it's completely up to you. So what I would say is if you're joining today and then it's maybe not what you thought it was, you maybe want it to go into a bit more kind of technical difficulty, then maybe the advanced session is perfect for you. So I think Alex or Pooja or Krish is going to drop the registration link in the chat right now for next week's session. So make sure that if you want to join us, you come and join us. And also this session, maybe you have a colleague that would have really benefited from attending this and couldn't or just didn't know about it. This will also be made available next week on demand as well. So let's go through to the next one. Yeah, so this session today, I'm just opening us up and then I'm going to pass on to the people who really know what they're talking about. So this is the intermediate session, and in some ways it's the hardest to pull together and to design, because part one is you've never used SpecSizer before or you really don't know the tool, and part three is targeted at people that use SpecSizer a lot and want to get to the kind of nitty gritty of how they can optimize a generator set and how they can become more efficient. But this middle session, which is the one that you're all in today, was harder because it's trying to pitch everything at that middle intermediate user level. But I think the team have done a great job at pulling the agenda together. So I'm just going to highlight the stages that we're going to go through and some of the key things to look out for. So part one is how you can organize all of those sizing projects. So we're going to take you through how you can structure them in a way that your sizing projects are organized, easily findable. We're also going to talk about how you can share your sizing projects with one another. The amount of times I've heard that users didn't even know that they could do that in SpecSizer. So we'll talk through that. Also, when you're setting up a sizing project, there are some more advanced settings that are available that you don't have to populate, but if you do, it helps you get a more accurate result. So we'll take you through those as well. The next is the Add Loads tab. So last week we showed you the kind of basic ways of adding loads to a sizing project, but especially when you're using multiple loads, maybe in the hundreds, That's not always the most efficient way to size a generator set, and it's going to take you a long time. So we've got a couple of features that, again, many people don't always know that we have, where it helps you add loads in bulk, add loads more quickly, and create templates for the loads that you use all the time so that you can just use them again and again. And then part 3, so Alex is going to take us through part 1, Krish part 2, and then part 3, we're going to go through the select your generator set tab again in a little bit more detail this time, talk about the comparison feature, but then really what I think is the star of the show today, so no pressure, Pooja, is the guide spec section. So I don't know if you know this, but for those of you who know what guide specs are and you know the benefits that they bring, Caterpillar updated their guide specs for their diesel genset range in about November, December last year. So we completely rehauled the information that we have in there. We updated the descriptions. We made them more kind of appealing and more customer friendly. So we're going to show that to you today, show you the updated content, show you how to generate them if you've never done it before. So we're really excited about that as well. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, so that's me. I'll pop back in at the end to close this up. Yeah, it's going to be a really, really great session. Engage, and we'll ask for feedback at the end as well. So Alex, over to yourself.
Okay, thank you very much, Amber. So hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening. My name is Alex, and I'm the technical sales support here in Caterpillar. I'll be covering now today's part 1 of the webinar, and we'll be talking about how to better organize and share your projects, and also some more advanced size parameters that we can find on the Define Site Conditions tab. These are the topics that we're going to be covering on this part, and I'll show you how to create folders on SpecSizer and how you can save your project on those folders. And also, I'll be showing you how to share your projects and access projects that have been shared with you. We'll also see how to access the My SpecSizer menu, where you can find some really nice features. And last, I'll show you the advanced size parameters that is part of the Define Site Conditions tab. On SpecSizer, you can create folders that will help you organize your projects. Instead of having all of them saved in one place, you can create folders and subfolders to group your projects based on what's best for you. SpecSizer root folder is called My SpecSizer, and from there, you can create new folders by left-clicking on it and choosing the Add folder. I'll show you this more details when we're doing the demonstration. SpecSizer also gives you the ability to share your projects. Sometimes you need someone to review your sizing, whether you want someone else's opinion or you want someone to review a query. And you can do that on SpecSizer by clicking on the share button and adding the email addresses of all the people that you want to share. On the top bar, you can find the My SpecSizer menu, and there's 3 options there that you can select. Clicking on the My Projects, this will take you to the My Projects page, and it's a quick way to return to the main page at any time. The Share With Me button will show you all the projects that were shared with you by other people, and the My Loads button will show you the loads templates that you created. I'll show you how to access them on the demo, and my colleague Krishnan will show you later how you can create the templates on the next part of this webinar. On the beginner level webinar, we saw how to create a 3-phase or a single-phase project and how to work on the first tab, the Define Site Conditions. On the bottom of the page, there is another box that you can expand by clicking, and this is the Advanced Sizing Parameter box. On this box, you can select the percentage of intermittent motors, also the sizing methods, voltage regulator, trends and restrictions, and some additional genset information. I'll show you all these options when doing the demo. And the last box that you can see in the Define Site Conditions tab is the project description. And here you can add all the information you want from your project. And this is a good feature to use when sharing your project, as you can give more details about it. Now, let's go over to a demo on these items that we just discussed. First, I'll show you how you can create the folders and subfolders and how you can move your projects to them. Sometimes you might want to organize your projects in groups, whether you want them to be grouped by clients or maybe by sites or any other criteria. SpecSizer allows you to create folders where you can save your projects and find them more easily. To create the folders, you need to be on the My Projects page. And on the left side of the page, you can see that the root folder My SpecSizer is highlighted in yellow. To create a new folder, you need to right-click on the My SpecSizer root and then click Add Folder. You can see that for the root folder, that's the only option available. You cannot rename, move, or delete this folder. When clicking on the Add Folder, a pop-up will appear asking you to give your folder a name. When you click Save, that folder will be shown below My SpecSizer. If you now right-click on the folder that you just created, you'll see that now you can access all the options on the menu. You can now rename the folder, you can move it to a different location, or you can delete it. But please keep in mind that if you delete the folder, all the projects that are inside will also be deleted. If you now want to divide your project into even more categories, you can click again on the Add folder, and a new folder will be created as a subfolder. If you click now on the arrow, you can see all the subfolders that are available. Now, if you have projects already created, you can click on those three bars next to it, and you will see that there's an option to move. This will allow you to choose which folder you want to add your project. So I'm going to add this now to my subfolder. If I open that folder now, we can see that the project was added to the folder. Now, I'll show you a demo of how you can share your projects. When doing a sizing, sometimes you want to ask the opinion of a colleague, or maybe you have questions about the generator set that was suggested, and you can share your sizing with others for review. When you are on the My Projects page, you can click on this icon, and the Share menu will appear. All you need to do here is add the email addresses of each person you want to share. And those who you have shared the projects will receive an email with a link for your project. And as long as they are SpecSizer users, they can open your project. On this menu, you can also see a list of most common emails to help you select faster. And you also can see a list of the current shared with users. Let me open now. Here you can see an example of an email that the person that you shared your project with will receive. And then there's a link here that you can click, and this will take you to the Share With Me page on SpecSizer. When opening a project that was shared with you, you will see that it's read-only, and you cannot do any change on it. But you can save a copy of the project by clicking on the Save As button, and then you can do any changes you think is necessary. After that, you can save it, and then you can reshare your edit project with the original person, and he can review your changes and comments. A quick way to see how many users your project was shared with is by looking at the share icon, and then there's the number on top of it. And this number will be updated for each user that your project is shared with. Now, going to the My SpecSizer menu on the top screen, here you can see that there's a couple of options, 3 options. The first button you can see is the My Project, and this is a quick way to return to your My Projects page from wherever you are on SpecSizer. The second button is the Share With Me. When you click on this button, you'll see that there is a list of all the projects that were shared with you. And you can see the sizing ID, you can see the name of the project, the person that shared that project with you, when it was shared, and when it was last modified. If you click on the sizing ID of the project, you will open it. And if you click on the 3 bars next to it, you can see there's a couple of options as well. If you click on open, this will open the project as a view only, like we did before. And you can also select to copy, and then this will already create a copy of the project on your page, like we did when we click on the Save As button. The last option is to delete, and this will only remove the project from your list and will not affect the actual project. The last item on the My SpecSizer menu is the My Loads. When you're creating new projects, sometimes you notice that the same load is being added frequently. And with that in mind, SpecSizer allows you to create a load template. This will be covered on the part 2 of this webinar. And on My Loads page is where you can see all the load templates you created, and then you can manage them. Now let's revisit the Define Site Conditions tab. When we went through this tab on the beginner level webinar, but there's a couple of more items that I would like to demonstrate. On the general box, you have another way that you can save your projects in folder. Here, you can select your project save location, and you can see all the folders that you created and choose where your new project will be saved. The next topic we will be covering here is the advanced size parameters. Here, the options are different depending on the fuel type that we selected. So first, we'll cover the options for the diesel fuel. The first option is the percentage of intermittent motors. The intermittent motors are those that may stop and restart randomly after all the loads are started. And an example would be like an elevator motor. This motor may cause disturbance that interfere with already running loads that are sensitive to the voltage dip. So for percentage of intermittent load motors, a range between 25 and 100% can be specified. And this range defines the percentage of motors or intermittent loads that are checked as intermittent and that are assumed to start at the same time. The next option is the sizing method. The options here are conventional or frequency limited. And for the conventional method, it permits the user to select a range of allowable voltage dip and frequency dip, and it's usually between 5 to 35%. The conventional sizing mode in SpecSizer uses the transient response data from the factory test generator set on warm engines, and most sizing in SpecSizer are based upon this conventional size mode, since it provides the user more options on setting different frequency and voltage dips. A generator set size using the frequent limit methodology will respond to each load step based purely on the governor performance, and this will limit the frequency dip to the minimum value possible, depending on the engine displacement or the governor design. User selection of the frequency limit sizing mode will set or reset each user-specified load's frequency dip to 10%. And the frequency limited size mode in SpecSizer uses the transient response data from the factory test generator sets that do not exceed a 10% frequency dip on a cold engine. The frequency limited size mode will almost always oversize the generator sets, particularly when some of the loads in the load scenario do not require a restrictive 10% dip and a start early in the load scenario step. The next option is the voltage regulator. Many of Caterpillar's generator sets have optional voltage regulator or a standard regulator. As an example, a 2-to-1 regulator will reduce 2% for each 1% of frequency change. And this is the volts and hertz optimization and allows choosing between the standard regulator slope or an additional choice with a larger slope, for example, a 3-to-1. Depending on the load scenario, either might result in a smaller, less costly SpecSizer recommended generator set, and the program default is best fit, which selects the generator set that results in the smaller generator. Next, we have the transient restriction. Default transient restriction is the load level. With load level, the voltage and frequency dip is indicated by individual loads. But for some projects, there may be an overall side limit to the voltage and frequency dip. And in this scenario, the transient restriction can be set to project level and a maximum voltage and frequency dip can be assigned. The last item here on the advanced size parameter is the additional genset information. And here you can select filters that will reduce the amount of genset available for selection. For example, you can select an engine model, or you can select a feature code, or anything that you want. Now, if I change the field type to natural gas, we can see some differences. So the percentage of intermittent motors still follows the same logic as the diesel. In sizing methodology, for natural gas, we have two different options. It's island mode or parallel to grid. The island mode refers to a generator set that will run on its own when there's no power coming from the grid. And the parallel to grid means that the generator set will be running together with the grid, and power will be coming from both sources. So for natural gas, the voltage regulator is already set to best fits, and you cannot change. This cannot be changed. And the next specific gas option is the radiator power loss percent. The radiator power loss percent parameter adds some load loss to the gas generator set models that aren't offered with radiators from the factory. This parameter is based on the full load side rating of the generator set. The default values are 2% of full load loss when the generator sets equal or greater than 1900 kilowatts, or 5% of full load loss if the generator set power is less than 1900. The next options follow the same logic for the diesel fuel. So the last item on the select generators, or on the define site conditions tab, is the project description. And here you can add any information you want on a project, and it's a very useful tool when you're sharing project with others. This will now conclude this demo, and I'm going to launch some questions for us to review the topics that we discussed here. So I'm going to launch now the first question. So you can share a project using the SpecSizer menu. Is that true or false? I see that most of people are actually selecting true, but the answer for that question is false. On the SpecSizer menu, you cannot share the project, but you can view the projects that were shared with you. In order to share a project, you need to click on that share button link on the My Projects page. It's not on the SpecSizer menu. The next question. So each of your projects tab can also be used to add your project to a folder that you created. Is it the Define Site Conditions tab, or is it the Add Loads, the Select Generator Set, or the Data and Reports? Yeah, starting to get some answers, and most people responded Define Site Conditions, which is correct. So whenever you create a new project, I showed that on the first box, the general box, there is like a project save location, and on that, with that option, you can actually save where your project can be, which folder your project will be saved. Okay, thank you everyone for your attention, and I'll now hand over to Krishnan that will cover the second part of this webinar.
Thank you very much, Alex. Good morning and good afternoon, and some of you, good evening to you. My name is Krishnan Pandeyaraj. I'm the current product owner of SpecSizer, and I will be walking you through the second part of this webinar, looking at some advanced features in Add Loads tab in SpecSizer. So let me share my screen. So let's start with part 2 of this webinar. I would like to focus on some of the advanced features in Add Loads tab. We all know that adding loads is a critical stage of the sizing analysis and most time-consuming process, as we know that the selected generator set needs to meet both power and performance requirements of the electrical load at site. So that's why we would like to look at what are all the features in Add Loads page will help you saving time in managing the loads, such as copying, moving between the steps, sorting the loads in the same step, and most importantly, adding loads in bulk. When you have large number of loads, we don't want to spend too much time in adding the loads through the normal drag and drop process. We will also see how you can modify the existing template for different load types in SpecSizer so that you can actually create your own load type and use it for future projects. Secondly, we will also look at how we can size an optimum or smallest generator set for your project, because that is also an important goal in order to win projects. As we know, an undersized generator set will fail at site in meeting the performance requirements. However, whereas an oversized genset is expensive to buy and run. We have a unique feature called Optimize My Loads in SpecSizer, which will help you to select an optimum genset. And finally, I will be touching up on how we can log the loads added to the step in the project. Then we will end with a live demo. Add loads tips, the tips on adding loads page. So let us look at how we can actually manage the loads and steps in a project. After adding a load to the step, we know that left click open the load dialog box, but a right click on the load will open a menu bar to do a number of things, such as you can copy it to the step, move between the steps. You can actually shed a load in a different step and remove that particular load from that step. We will be looking at how we can log the load at the end of this part 2. So this is mainly for how do you actually manage the loads. There should be a way to manage the load step as well. So that's why we have given you that 3 horizontal bar, or I call it as a burger symbol. So if you left click that burger symbol, it will open up the menu bar where you can actually see copying the complete step, or you can actually bulk adding that particular step. You can do a rename of the step name. For example, currently it is showing step 1 : 3 loads. You can give a different name. For example, you can call it as a MCCC panel number 1. You can do that. And you can also sort the number of loads in that same step using sort function as well. I will show you during the live demo. And finally, you can also remove that particular step by clicking remove. So now we move on to adding multiple load steps. As Amber earlier on mentioned that there are some applications where the loads will be over 50 plus. So for example, if you take an application such as a pumping station or a manufacturing or retail malls, they will have a large number of electrical equipments, and each of them will have different characteristics and performance requirements. As I mentioned earlier, all of this information needs to be entered in SpecSizer in order to accurately size the genset. So which means you will be spending a lot of time in adding them. So that's why we wanted to give you 2 new methods where you can actually add loads quickly to SpecSizer. And what are they? One is called a bulk add. The other one is bulk Excel upload. And what is the difference? Bulk add loads, it actually opens up a new user interface or a layout in SpecSizer application and allow you to add the load into the project. Whereas if you look at the bulk Excel upload, will allow you to enter the loads in an Excel workbook and import to SpecSizer. In order to meet the load types in SpecSizer, the Excel workbook needs to be downloaded from SpecSizer and used as a template, because if people use a different template, we cannot accommodate in SpecSizer. That's why we have 2 buttons, one for downloading the template from SpecSizer, and then one for importing the template into SpecSizer. So let us look at in detail how the bulk add loads works. So clicking a bulk add icon will take you to a new user interface in SpecSizer, as I mentioned. So you can actually specify the load type using the drop down here. For example, in this case, a 3-phase motor is selected, and then remaining fields will have a default values. So this is a 3-phase motor, so the load name will be 3-phase motor load, and it will have some default values. Only thing which are mandatory is in the red font. You must complete this field in order to add this load into the project. So you can add as many loads as you want in this format, and then when you finally done all of these loads added, you can either add loads to the project, which means the loads you have entered here will be added to the other loads already in the project, or you can click replace loads in project. So that way you are totally replacing the loads in the project by the loads added using bulk add load function. Now look at the bulk Excel upload. as I told you, it has two different arrows there. So one has a down arrow and a bucket symbol. So that will help you to download the Excel template to your computer. The instructions for populating the data are given in the workbook. So all you need to do is use the instructions and add the loads to the Excel workbook at your own convenience. And then you can come back to SpecSizer to import the loads from the Excel workbook using the upward arrow button. So when you are trying to upload it, it will ask you to select the template, and then you select the file from your folder and you click import, and that will take you back to add loads page, which we have seen earlier on, and then through which you can actually add all of the loads from the Excel spreadsheet into the project. Now look at the load template. This is another useful tool in SpecSizer, which will help you modeling customer loads in for the project. So we know that all of our customers will not have the full details of the load, but it is important to use the relevant data to select an optimum generator set. So as we already looked at for different load types, there is a default value for a power factor, for a starting KVA, etc. Say in the absence of the data sheet or full information, if a customer comes to you and then say they have a 255 kilowatt VFD load, and if you simulate that 255 kilowatt VFD load in SpecSizer, then it will assume the default rectifier type of 6 pulse, and it will come up with the selection of D150-10, which is a 150 kilowatt genset. But taking a few moments, go on to the web and do a little bit of a search, because the customer has specified that the 55 kilowatt VFD is not just a VFD, it is a model called ACS 800, which is an ABB drive. So that can trigger you to find out more information about the drive. So go onto the web quickly and then do a little bit of research, and you can actually find that the ACS 837 series actually uses a low harmonic drive with a THD of less than 5%. So this information is very critical, because if you use that information to model these two numbers of 55 kilowatt VFD, you can actually size a 125 GC, which is a 125 kilowatt genset, which makes difference in terms of cost. So let's see how you can actually create a template for a three-phase motor load in order to simulate ACS 800 series in SpecSizer. All you need to do is the load template allows you to create a new template for the selected load type. And all you need to do is you open up the default load template for the load. For example, in this case, it is a three-phase motor load, and then give a new name. Then make changes to the appropriate field. Say, for example, it comes up with a three-phase motor load, give a new name, and then make changes. The only change you are making here is from the pulse type from 6 pulse to IGBT in order to replicate the THDI. Here in this case it is 6.7, but this is closer to what ABB quotes in their website compared to the 6 pulse, which has a THD of 29%. So when you do that way, then at the bottom of that load dialog box, there is an option to check the box for save as template, and then check that box and then you click save, and that will add that particular load into my loads page, which you can access through my SpecSizer and my loads. So if you go to my loads, you can actually see that particular load, new load type added in here. So which means every time you go back to add a three-phase motor load, what will happen is it will have a name, it will have a template name, either default or ACS 800. So here you can select ACS 800 series AFE, which is an active front end. In future, if somebody comes back and says the similar series, the rating could be different, but it's a similar series, and that way you've done some research, you wanted to use that information for you to use in future projects. So that's all about creating a load template in order to use it for future projects. Now look at the very important tool, which is called Optimize My Loads. As we all know that in a cost competitive world, we need to offer and select a smaller genset possible. At the same time, we have to meet the requirements. So we have a tool called Optimize My Loads, which is available in two places. One is in Add Loads, and the other one is in Select Generator Set. Both does the same function, but I will be going through only the optimized loads in Add Loads. The next speaker, Pooja, will be looking at go to optimize scenario in Select Generator Set. What is the objective is, as I mentioned, in order to select a smaller genset without compromising the performance and power requirements. How does it do? Is it actually adjusts the loads in that step based on the load demand, and then it will adjust the loads into a desired number of load steps. So let us now look at an example where a customer has specified 3 loads and you are putting those 3 loads in a single step. So each of them, you can actually see the blue line shows the starting demand of that load, and then the red or orangey will shows you the running demand of that particular load. So it looks like all of these 3 loads are approximately 25 kilowatt rated, but they have a different starting demands. So by looking at load 1, we can assume that it is something like an electronic or kitchen or resistive type load where both the starting and running are the same. Load 2 and 3 have different starting demands. So looking at load which has a higher starting demand, indicating it is a motor started using a direct online, whereas load 3 is also a motor but with a soft starting. So for this load scenario, all of these 3 loads, if you work out hand calculation, or if you let SpecSizer does, it will work out the total final running kilowatt as 82 kilowatt. But I'm certain that a 100 kilowatt genset cannot accept this, because if we apply all of these loads in a single step, then the maximum starting kilowatt will be somewhere around 130 plus. If you add all of these 25, 106, and 7, that will be 130 plus. And a 100 kilowatt genset cannot accept a 130 kilowatt load in a single step. But if we can resequence the loads and do 1 load per step, then your maximum starting demand will be 106, which is due to the second load, a motor with a direct online. So then there is a possibility that a 125 kilowatt generator set can be offered for this project. So let us now look at how it is implemented in SpecSizer. Optimize My Loads, it actually identifies the most demanding loads and split them into separate steps. And again, those steps are specified by you. So let us look at the screen. If you go into SpecSizer, you can actually see there are 3 different loads here: fan 1, office load, and fan 2. And under desired number of steps, you can actually go and specify the number of steps you want to sequence the loads. There is an option to select optimum as well. Then SpecSizer will use its own logic to find the optimum steps so that the smaller genset can be selected. So here an example, we have, as I said, 25 kilowatt fan, and then an office load with a 25 kilowatt. Then finally, there is a second fan with a 25 kilowatt with a starting demand of nearly 138 kilowatt. If I am optimizing it, what will happen is using the optimum selection. So SpecSizer will keep that 25 kilowatt fan 1 in step 1, moving the remaining loads into step 2. And that way you can actually see the difference in the starting demand between the original scenario where you have 3 loads in the step, and in the next optimized scenario where it actually put that fan 1 25 kilowatt in step 1 with their reduced maximum step demand of 106 kilowatt. Of course, this needs to be reviewed with the customer and agree with them whether it suits the application or not. If the customer specifies that the loads need to be in step 1 and cannot be moved, and that's where we start to use that lock load feature. So what is this lock load feature is, whenever you open up any load template, a lock symbol will appear if that particular load is going to be added in step 1. So when you click that, then the icon of the load will change, and you will see a lock icon appear at the bottom right-hand corner. So one thing you need to be careful about locking the loads and optimize my load function is, if the load is locked, then unfortunately the optimization should not move the load into later steps. So that way it may not size a smaller genset, because this load has to be kept in step 1, so that way optimization will not make any change. So with that, we will go into the live demo, and I can show you what are all the features we have seen in part 2. So now you're in SpecSizer add loads page. So you can actually see, so let me take this one. So you can see there is a load added here. And as I mentioned, if you do a right click, it will open up a navigation bar where you can actually see different options. So this one is the lock. So you can lock it here and you can see the symbol appears here. You can also unlock it. You redo that. And then if you're doing a copy, then the maximum number of copies you can make is 25. And for example, I'm going to copy 5 and click continue. And that way, a 5 number of loads will be added to the same project. So let me enter 5 here and click continue. And it will add these. Okay, so you can also copy to a different step by going into copy to step, and then you can select step 2, because at the moment there is only one step, so it will always come up with the next new step, which is step 2. So you can do that. You can also you can drag and drop if you want. You can also move to different step using this way, step 2. You can do that, and you can also remove it. So just by clicking it, you can do that. You can also shed in a different step. So if you do that, then step 2 will be created with a shed with the load being removed. So you can see that it comes up with a minus 25 kilowatt because you are shedding it. So these are some of the ways you can actually manage the loads. Let's look at how a complete step can be managed. So as I said, there is a 3 horizontal bar or a burger icon. So you do a left click and that will open up copy, bulk, rename options. Say, for example, I'm copying it, then it will add as a complete step. A new step will be created with the same number of loads at the end. You can also move the step between to the beginning or end, or between before or after the specified steps. So that is the ways to manage the loads in the step and also the load steps. So let us now look at a bulk add function. So as I mentioned, these 3 horizontal icon here, the bulk add loads. So you click that, and that will open up a new user interface or a layout where you can actually add different loads. So you have to select a load type. Say, for example, I'm going to select a fire pump. Then it comes up with where you want to add it. You can specify the appropriate step. So you can do that, step 2. And then the only information you need to provide is the output rating, because that's a mandatory field. So I'm going to enter 45 kilowatt as the rating. There are a couple of options you can fill in. If not, you can leave it as it is. You can add another load if you want. So select this time, you can select an office equipment. Again, you need to select the load size as 25. Then once you have entered, then you can either replace the loads in project or you can add loads to the project. So I'm going to try replace loads in project. So click that, and then it will take you back to the add loads page where you can actually see all of the loads we have entered previously has disappeared, and only these 2 loads will appear. So that's the way to add loads bulk using bulk add. Now I will show you how you can actually do through Excel. So this is the icon, the down arrow with the bucket, and that will help you. That will allow you to download the template to the computer. So I have already downloaded the template here. So now I'm going to import. So choose the template. And I already created that. So before that, maybe I'll take time to show you quickly how that spreadsheet is organized and how you can actually enter the load. So if you go to the left-hand side, there are instructions here, as I mentioned, and follow these instructions. And then you can specify project settings, and then there is a tab for different load type available in SpecSizer. So at the moment, I have only used a 3-phase motor load and an office equipment. Remaining are all empty. So I have saved it. Now I am going to import by selecting the template from the folder. So click open, and then you will see the file name here, and click import. And you can actually come back to bulk add loads. and you can actually see those loads in the screen now. Now you have an option either to add the loads to the project or replace the loads in project. Again, I'm going to do replace loads in project. So I'm going to say yes. So you can actually see that now it has replaced all the loads in the project from 2 to 3. And the first one is an office load 25 kilowatt. The other two loads are 25 kilowatt rated 3-phase motors. Now I will do a quick demo on that optimize my loads. As I mentioned, optimize my loads will resequence the loads in that step into optimum number of steps. So you click optimize my loads, and that will open up a dialog box where you can actually see all the loads in the project right now. And it will ask you, all you need to do is you need to select the desired number of steps. So you can select 1, 2, 3, or 4. The maximum is 40. So as you can see here, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to specify 3 or 4. Obviously, you can't select 4 because there are only 3 loads here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make SpecSizer make the choice. So I'm going to select optimum. So when I select optimum and then click OK, so that will take a while, and then it will change into the sequencing, keeping the load step 1, which is a 25 kilowatt fan in step 1, and then move the rest of the remaining loads into step 2. So that way you can actually see previously when you have all the 3 in one step, it is 133.7 kilowatt is your step demand, and the peak is 162 kilowatt. But when you resequence, you can actually see it will keep the maximum step demand to 105.8. So that way it will help to size a smaller genset. So before I stop here, let me quickly show you. There's a black banner at the bottom that will show you the details of the load. And here also you can understand what is the starting demand, running demand, and you can also lock the loads here. Say, for example, I'm locking the load here. Then I collapse, then move the loads here, 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to lock this office load lock the office load as well. And then if I go back and do optimize my loads, you will see that the office load and the fan load, the 25 kilowatt fan, will be in step 1, and only the other unlocked load will be moved to the other step. So unfortunately, this is the busy time of the day. So it is. You can actually see that it comes back. Sometimes our server takes time to do that. So this way you can actually see all the locked loads are kept in the step without being moved. So with that, I finished the demo. I hope you found the features I have talked about in add loads tab is very interesting, and then you find it useful. Once you practice, it will be useful. Now it's the time for the polls to review what are the topics I have covered in part 2 of the series. So let me launch my first poll or question. You will see it on the screen. Optimize my loads future can move the loads locked in step 1 to later steps in order to select a smaller genset. Is it true or false? Please select your choice. Okay, the results have come. The right answer is false, because if you lock the loads, you don't want it to move. And that's why optimize my load function does not move any loads locked in a step. I can understand some things can be confusing. So let's move on to the next question. Okay, the next question is, what is the purpose of bulk add loads feature in SpecSizer? Is it for adding more loads quickly to the project, or is it for add fire pump load, or is it for replacing loads already added to the project? Please submit your choice. Fantastic. So 97%, most of you got the answer right. Although the replace loads already added to the project is feasible in bulk add loads, bulk add is mainly, the main objective is to add more loads quickly to the project. With that, I thank you for your patience, and I hope you found it interesting. Add loads feature, which is a very critical one. Now I will hand you over to my colleague Pooja, who will give more insight on the select generator page and a guide spec document.
Thank you, Krishnan. Just getting my slide deck ready. All right, so hello everyone. My name is Pooja Das Sharma, and I'm a marketing consultant here at Caterpillar Electric Power Division. And today I will be covering the final part of today's webinar on some of the advanced functionalities available on the Select Generator Set page of SpecSizer. So the agenda for this part is that we will look into how to optimize the load from the Select Generator Set tab, which is an extension to what Krishnan covered earlier in his part. And we will also look into how to compare the technical parameters of different generator sets, how to download drawings and spec sheets, and finally, how to create guide specs from SpecSizer. So let's move on to optimize loads in Select Generator Set tab. So as you might recall from our previous webinar, the Select Generator Set tab is basically where you can find the list of all generator sets that meet your requirement based on the site and load details that you have entered in the previous steps. Now, if SpecSizer determines that a load sequence exists with your entered loads, which can result in a smaller generator set, then you will be able to see a notification stating optimizer status go to optimize scenario on the upper right half of this tab. So what you will need to do is you'll need to click on this button to go back to the add loads page from where you can then again optimize the loads. And we will look at this during our demo in detail. The next functionality that is available in SpecSizer is compare genset. So SpecSizer allows you to compare up to 3 generator sets along with the best fit generator set. So best fit plus 3, so a total of 4 generator sets. The technical parameters can be compared. So what you will need to do is you'll need to select the generator sets that you wish to compare along with the best fit generator set, and then click on the compare gensets button out here. And then SpecSizer will highlight the technical differences with respect to the best fit generator set in blue separately. And wherever there is no difference, that will not have this blue highlight. Again, we will have a look at this during our demo. The next feature that we will look at is how to download drawings and spec sheets for your selected generator set from the Select Generator Set tab. So last webinar, we saw the same functionality through the Data and Reports tab, but today we will have a look at this from the Select Generator Set tab. The process is pretty much similar. You will need to click on the Download Drawings and Spec Sheets button, which will then throw up the list of drawings and spec sheets that is available for download for your selected generator sets. And you will need to select whatever you wish to download and then click on the download button at the end. And you can also download multiple documents together in one go as well. And today, like Amber had mentioned, we will also look at a new functionality of creating guide specs from SpecSizer. Now, since we have a wide audience today, I would like to briefly explain on what is guide spec and the benefits of this document. So guide spec, as the name suggests, is a guiding spec which is broadly used by consultants, specifiers, or spec writers as a reference document in order to create the bidding or tender specifications. This is used to enable faster and more efficient preparation of bid specification. And today, the guide specs for stationary diesel generator sets are available for download on SpecSizer. And we have recently updated and refreshed all our content based on the 3-part structure as per the industry standard. And the process of guide spec generation is also very user-friendly, and you can choose among the different options available for your selected generator set and decide to print only those relevant clauses based on your project requirements. So say, for example, the generator set that you have selected has both weather protective enclosure and a sound attenuated enclosure option. You can choose to generate the enclosure description for a particular option. So let's say if your requirement is sound attenuated option, so you can choose that particular option, and then only the description for the sound attenuated enclosure will get printed in the enclosure section. You can also generate the guide spec document in both imperial or metric units of measure. And lastly, the document is generated in an editable Word format. And we have some color-coded notes throughout the document highlighting the different sections where you can add or remove some optional details based on your local requirements, because this document, as we understand, is usually needed in an editable format wherein you can make your necessary changes as well. So to generate guide specs, what you will need to do is, after you've selected the generator set for which you need the guide spec, you just simply need to click on Create Guide Spec button. And this will open up a new screen where you will be asked to choose between the different options available for your selected generator set. So once you've made those selections, then all you need to do is click Generate. And this will then allow you to download an editable Word document with which is the guide spec for your selected generator set. So now we will move on to the demo of all these functionalities on SpecSizer. So, all right. So I'm on SpecSizer right now, and I've already added some loads in my previous step. And as you can see, the loads that I've added is obviously not the optimized scenario, and SpecSizer is suggesting that there is a optimized scenario for my loads. So currently in this non-optimized scenario, SpecSizer is suggesting that my best fit generator set is a D1250GC, which is basically a 1250 kilowatt generator set. But then since SpecSizer has determined that a smaller genset is probably possible based on whatever load details I have entered. So that's why it's throwing me up this notification on my select generator set page that it says go to optimized scenario. So if I want to go and see the optimized scenario, so I'll just have to go and click here. And this is going to take back to my previous page. So earlier in my step 1, I had all the loads in a single step. But now the moment I have clicked on go to optimize scenario, SpecSizer has utilized its logic. So I can also change if I want. So right now it is utilizing the optimum logic. But if I want to want a desired number of steps, that is also possible, like Krishnan had explained in his part. And then click on OK. Just giving it some time. And so we are back at the optimized scenario where the loads have been divided now into 3 different steps. Now, if I go back to the select generator set tab, here you can already see that SpecSizer is telling me that my project is optimized because I have optimized my loads. And now let us have a look at what is the optimum best fit genset. So as you can see right now, SpecSizer is recommending that a D1000GC is the best fit generator set for my requirement, which is 1000 kilowatt genset. So from a 1250 kilowatt genset, which was recommended earlier, we have now reduced the kilowatt rating to 1000 kilowatt. So this way you can use the optimize your generator set feature even from the select generator set page. Now we'll show you the next functionality that I discussed, which is compare gensets. So this is the best fit generator set, and let's say I want to compare the previously selected optimized genset, which is a D1250GC, and then let's say I want to compare another 3512, and let me select 1750. So let's say I just want to compare these generator sets along with the best fit generator set. Please note at the maximum you can compare 3 generator sets. You cannot compare more than that together. So that is the maximum number. And then once you click on compare generator set, SpecSizer will throw up the list of technical details for the selected generator set along with the best fit generator set. So you can see this is the best fit generator set, which was my D1000GC. And these are the other generator sets which I had selected for comparison. And the technical parameters which are different are highlighted in blue in this document. Now, in case you want to see just the technical details which are not matching the best fit requirements, you can just simply select hide matching rows. And this will just show you the list of technical details of these other generator sets which do not match the best fit requirement. So you can use this to compare different generator sets. Now to go back, just click on back to generator set selection button. Now take some time to load. So the next functionality that I will be demonstrating to you today is download drawings and spec sheets. So it's simple, just select the generator set for which you want to download drawings and spec sheets and click on download drawings and spec sheets button. Now, since it takes some time for SpecSizer to fetch that document, I have already kept it ready over here. So for a D1000 GC, you can see that whatever drawings and spec sheets are available will be shown to you on this separate pop-up. You can just select whatever you want. So if you want this particular drawing and if you want a battery charger, so you can select whatever is necessary as per your requirement and simply click on download button. And what will happen is SpecSizer, this is a PDF output. I've again taken the output in order to save some time. So this is the output that comes. So the entire drawing and the entire list of spec sheets and drawings that you had requested to generate gets printed in a PDF version in a single document. So the battery charger and all the other cut sheets which I had included gets printed in a single file. So this way you can leverage the same functionality. So it's also available in data and report section, but you can leverage this functionality even from the select your generator set page. And the last functionality that I'm going to demonstrate you today is create guide specs. So once you have selected the generator set for which you want to create the guide spec, just simply click on create guide spec button. So this will then throw up this kind of a screen, which gives you first a small technical summary of your selected generator set. So you know that what is the generator set for which you are requesting a guide spec. And then it throws up the list of options for your selection. So in this case, the generator set I had selected has only a single GCCP 1.2 control panel option. But in case a particular selected generator set has more than one control panel options, all the three options will be available to you and you can make your necessary selections from this radio button. So for circuit breaker as well, you can make your necessary. Let's say I want a UL listed circuit breaker, even for enclosure. So the default is no enclosure, but if there are some other enclosure options available for that particular generator set model, then even that will be displayed and you can make your selection. So in this case, I'm selecting that I need a sound attenuated enclosure. The next one is the remote monitoring or the telematics section. So in case you want the guide specs to be printed with the data management and remote monitoring section, you can just check this box. By default, it will be checked. But if you do not need it, you can also uncheck it. So that control is with you. Same goes with the warranty. So by default, the standard warranty section is given. But in case you wish to see the description for extended service coverage, you can just simply select this radio button. And you can generate your guide specs for either imperial system unit of measure or metric system unit of measure just by clicking on this button. So right now, let's say I want to generate the unit of measure as imperial system. So I can just keep this button as it is. And some of the buttons by default will be selected because these are based on the selected generator sets and you cannot really edit these buttons. So these are there by default. And wherever you are allowed to make a selection, you can make the selection. So once you have finalized your selections, all you need to do is click on generate button, and this will download a Word editable format of the guide spec. So this is how the downloaded document will look like. So it is a completely editable Word format in a 3-part structure. Part 1 is general, part 2 is product, and part 3 is execution. And on the top, we have written that you will see some text in red and blue fonts throughout this document. So the red font is basically for you to see the sections where you can add more details or delete some optional details. And the blue text is to highlight different product related options. So you can choose the option that is best suited for your requirement and then delete the remaining options. So for example, if I just scroll down, If there are some specific related requirements that you wish to add based on your local standards, you can always add it here. So that's why we have highlighted some of the sections in red and blue separately, so that it calls out that these are the places where you can take some decisions and add or remove content based on your local requirements if needed. So this concludes my demonstration for the final part of today's webinar. And I would request Alex, if you can please launch the poll for this part. All right, so the first question is, it is not possible to download all spec sheets together on SpecSizer. Is it true or false? So I have 40 responses so far. I'm still waiting for others to respond. Okay, I think we have reached 60, so we at least have 50% of the participants responding. So most of you have responded correctly. 77% have given the right answer. It is false. So it is possible to download all the spec sheets together and on SpecSizer, like I showed you. Once you click on download drawings and spec sheets, you can select the drawings and spec sheets that you need, and all of them together will be downloaded in a single PDF file. So the answer is false. Can I have the next question, please, Alex? Thank you. So the next question is, what is the maximum number of generator sets that can be compared on the Select Generator Set tab of SpecSizer, including the best fit generator set? So the options are 3, 4, 2, and 6. So we have a close competition for 2 of the options. All right, so we have 61 responses so far, and majority of you again are correct. So 48% of you have answered correctly. The answer is 4. So the best fit generator set is by default taken and compared generator set. And then apart from the best fit, you can compare 3 more generator sets. So in a total, you can compare the technical parameters of 4 generator set through the compare gen set functionality on the select generator set tab. So thank you everyone for your active participation. And now I hand over to Amber for the closing comments.
Great. Pooja, thank you. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Just checking. So that is the end of the intermediate session today. So a huge thank you to Alex, Krish, and Pooja for taking us through that. So if you have any feedback for us, please email us at what is the email, Alex? Is it SpecSizer@cat.com, or should we have that?
I'll put the link in the chat box.
Well, the chat's
I'm gonna
locked down, so we've locked the chat
no,
down
that's
by
okay.
mistake.
I'm gonna share my
okay.
screen out.
Thank you. So yeah, so it's SpecSizerSupport@cat.com. Please feel free. Oh yeah, that's it. Just to send any feedback our way. If there's something that we didn't cover or we covered in too much or not enough detail, let us know. And also, what I would say is, because we've locked the chat down, we weren't able to drop in the link for next week's session. So for those of you that joined late, next week's session is the final session, and it is the advanced session. So we're really excited about that. We've even got a new presenter joining us for the final stage. So if you want to join that session and you can't remember the registration details, then just email that same address and say, hey, I want to attend this next week. It's at the same time next Thursday, and we will send you the registration link. So just a reminder, that session is going to cover really the kind of more advanced technical tools and things that you can do in order to optimize sizing a generator set and potentially size for a smaller generator set as well. So if I just look through the agenda one last time, we will we'll make that available to you as well. So make sure you sign up for that if you haven't done so already. Hope you found this useful. Send your feedback to us. And yes, and all of this will be made available on demand next week in case your colleagues want to watch it or you want to watch it again. So thank you very much for joining, and we hope you have a great day.